Hello again. Another audio recording that I decided to start on again. Um, Last video or audio that I did, I talked about wars, how people react to certain emotions, life, religions, things like that. Me being an omnist and caring about everything in a small way. I think that life should be viewed, as I said in the first video, as something that should be revered and looked at as something more than just life. What does that mean? Well, you could probably figure it out. I believe greatly in many religions, as I've talked a lot about Christianity in the video I did before. Muslims, their beliefs I talked about a little bit, and how we reacted to quickly or without thinking or without researching after the 9/11 attacks, and we're still talking about how they're such ruthless people. A lot of people now realize they're not bad people, but the fact that we reacted as we did was inexcusable, and I think fill in some things about that. A lot of people in America, even some other countries, and comedians even, will use references to things they probably don't understand or don't really look into. The idea of, in the Muslim faith, of the 72 virgins. I know this is a weird way to moderately start a video. The 72 virgins thing, because of our ignorance, believing that, yeah, they use that as the excuse for us to, or for the, I think his name was not Saddam Hussein, it was, that terrorist. I can't even remember his name. I don't really care. They used the news, or the media used the idea that he said, if you kill yourself for Allah and run into these buildings, you will be greeted in paradise by 72 virgins. That is the most laughable thing and most ignorant and idiotic excuse for a religious basis I've ever heard of. If they were real Muslims, they would have known that that was the biggest crock of shit you could ever imagine, you could ever think of, conceive, whatever the hell you want to. Yeah, it was ridiculous. The Muslim faith, as I've read a little bit of what they do, and how they act, and their love, compassion, going to an afterlife, like similar to the spiritual belief of Christianity and Catholicism, is that instead of going to see family, they're going to see 72 virgins or something of the nature, is crap, because as I understand it, the original Quran stated that you will see many people. I can't recall if it was an exact number like 72, but I do know that you go to an otherworldly place and greeted by friends, family, and long lost relatives, or something like that. There is no mention of 72 virgins, and I laughed a few minutes ago, about a minute or so ago, about that, because it is ridiculous. Another thing that I understand about them is that they do not look at Jesus Christ as not a saint, but as the Son or God incarnated. That's irrelevant to me, as I'm an omnist. I'll find out, and most of us probably will, that is irrelevant when you exist on this planet. You act not on impulse, but how you are, and that's how you find out who, where, and what happens after death. I say after, because you couldn't possibly know where you're going to go. I don't believe that for a second. I believe you can see certain places like heaven, as they call it in the Christian faith, some realm that is beauty beyond logical or physical comprehension. That is heaven. But you only go to a place like that if you are a positive, loving, compassionate creature or human. That's what I believe. I don't put a name to that place, that loving place. I don't put or use one thing to go to that place. I simply view it as your soul and who you are is where you'll go, and that's life. People will say, well, you don't have any faith in one thing or whatever along those lines. You're going to hell. Well, those kind of people are the people that are so close-minded, and if they say something like that, then they probably have a lot of negativity in their lives as well, and so they have no reason or logical way of talking to someone through one of those the preaching stands. They can't preach if they're going to tell you that's wrong, believe in this, or you'll burn forever. I don't believe that. People who will judge somebody by saying something like that are probably going to go somewhere, maybe not like hell, but somewhere, if they keep that course, somewhere that isn't too good. But that's just my logical way of looking at it. Back to the Muslims, though. They're good people, very nice people, some of the kindest people, as I said in the previous video, that I've ever known. They believe in what they believe in, just like everyone else, and they look not exactly at any one man as the ruler of their faith. They look at something that has a name but no real physical aspect, and I respect that. I respect that we exist to act how we act, and that dictates where we go. And actions aren't also the only thing that causes you to go where you go. I personally believe that who you are, is where deep down, not physical, mental, anything like that, who you really are, how you feel, how you are deep down, what you believe in or not, that is who you are, and that is the kind of place you'll go to. That is what you need to be. I believe that every faith has its way of doing things. As I said in the first episode, I think I stated that pyre, which is to burn someone alive, or not alive while they're dead, but to burn them on a kind of like the Star Wars way at the end of the sixth movie, where Luke had burned what's his face, Darth Vader. Anakin is where you take a body and you place it in a on a full body. I think they weigh worth of wood about 1,000 pounds, maybe a little more. They call that a pyre. I believe it's more effective, maybe not environmentally safe, but more effective than putting someone in an oven or when they're dead and not crucifying, but to put them in a jar. I um, I believe that is a good way to go. It's sad to see someone being burned that way, even when they're dead. But I respect it. It's releasing them back into what's left of them and back into nature. So I respect that. I think that's Hindu. I hope I'm not offending anyone. I think in the first video I didn't say Hindu, I said Buddhist or something. Um, but so there's that. I think Buddhists believe that you are reincarnated. I believe that too. I believe there is an almighty being. I can't put a name to him or it because I'm not going to, but I do believe that part of you, maybe not who you truly are, but a part of you goes on after you die, floats, and is reborn somehow through maybe the atoms or something, somehow, some way. I'm not really a scientific kind of guy, I'm more spiritual. But I think that's how reincarnation truly works. As for other religions and their faiths, there's always something you can look at and say that makes sense. I believe that things are put in motion or created or conceived because they're meant to point people in a direction that's truly right. Um, Religions are meant to be just that, a pointer, a way to show, a way to teach, kind of like a mentor or a sensei, a teacher, a way of life, of learning life. That's what that is. That's what that is. Now, people, when it comes to religions, always have to hold it against other people, and I guess, no, I'm not even going to say I guess I can understand that. People shouldn't fight over things like that. It's similar to how greed has affected people to become so desperate that in certain areas they will shoot someone or choke someone to death because of $5, because all they wanted to use it for was a little bit of food. There are areas that don't have those nice amenities or buildings that give away free food or help clothe or feed the needy. That is what other countries are dealing with now and have been for quite a while. It saddens me to say that, but it's very true. Back to the Muslims and their beliefs, though, I respect that they don't put a name or a physical characteristic to their highest the belief. I think they do, but I think that's what affects religions in a negative way, is that they can't just call it something like the almighty peace or a powerful being of immeasurable purity and love, compassion, as I've said in the previous audio clip. Those are the things that I truly respect. I don't want to repeat too much as I did in the previous video. I sometimes will regurgitate information, as a lot of people always do. Um, the example I used of Adolf Hitler, a lot of people will probably look at that clip and think, well, it's possible, but he still killed millions of people. Well, the screwed up thing is, and the sad thing, is that maybe that was his fate. I'm not going to put a religious way of looking at this. I'm just going to say that might have been his fate. To be a very hateful person, but before that, a very caring, wanting to get his art into schools and make something of himself. That's what he did when he was a boy. All he wanted to do was help and help himself and maybe I think even his family at the time. He wanted to make something of himself, and his hate from the people, the Jewish people, was very close-minded of him, but it was because of constantly being rejected and treated as a commodity or as a somebody who wasn't cared for. His hate boiled up for years to the point where he hated them. Pure hate because of the millions of people who were killed. That is sad. It is. He went from an innocent child trying to help to a murderer of millions, and I believe at the end went back to that peaceful nature and killed himself because he couldn't live with it. As for history itself, again about like the Library of Alexandria thing, I'm afraid, truly afraid, that I feel that's what's going to happen to a lot of other nations of this world and possibly of America. I am fearful that no matter how strong a nation thinks it is, no matter how advanced it is, there will always be something that could end it or hurt it very much. We understood that during World War I and II, but we apparently don't understand that today. We believe that because of the power we have and the electronics and the computers and the radio waves and all of this technological achievements, we believe that we will go forever. I am worried that because our nation has become somewhat, no, not somewhat, very greedy, that it may or may not be hurt in the future, maybe even the near future. I may live to see it, but I don't think so. But I am afraid that, like the Library of Alexandria, like the Samoans or the Aztecs or the Egyptians and their amazing technology that took centuries to refine, and there's probably still some left, I'm worried and afraid that that's what's going to happen to American and a lot of other national treasures, quote unquote. That's what I'm afraid is going to happen. I hope it doesn't. I am no hater or distasteful towards America, but I feel that what we do to other nations and other places of the world is wrong, and I just wish more people were aware of it. America once stood for so much more than what it does now. People in cities around the world killing one another or worrying too much over stressful and things like how much can I afford? How much is this apartment or house? How much do I have to spend on a vehicle? Can I even go on with life with this little with college? Will it really get me further? Yes, it will, but it will not make you necessarily happy. That is the difference. That is the problem. I'm worried that people are too focused on making money and living and just trying to live through money, that they don't look at what's really truly going on. We are allowing fear, profit, and anger and all these mixed emotions to change what our country once stood for, what this powerful nation once stood for. We once stood for liberty, justice, and the belief in a higher power. I'm not going to say God, because I believe that we didn't necessarily stand for God. We did as a nation, but not individually. Century or a little more ago, we stood for those things: the life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. But again, back then, the original was profit. We're back to that again. But I believe that our nation, and I know that our nation once stood for a power that wasn't for power. It was for the belief that everyone had the right to live comfortably and in peace, with jobs that helped not only themselves in this way profit, but also helped their neighbors, their community, the people around them. It was like an old show that I'm sure a lot of people will think I'm weird for saying, but it was a wonderful show called Andy Griffith. Good family show where people were in this small community, loved everyone, and all it was about was good feelings, good happy feelings. That is something that what our nation originally stood for, and what it should still stand for, but it doesn't. Greed from 1913 to now, maybe even a little before that, has affected our nation in this way. I'm not going to try to get completely involved in politics. In fact, if at all, any time in the future, I probably won't. I believe politics always leads to shit circumstances, such as, oh, President Obama is doing whatever he does, but every time we think that he's going to do something, he doesn't. Then look at Mitt Romney. He said, oh, well, I can do this for you, I can give you this money, I can help bring back jobs. Would he have really done that? Or would he have been threatened somehow by somebody through family or something, and not been able to do it, and then blamed for it? Because that's how some people work. Some people, I believe, that might be in power, not only in the US, but in other countries too, I believe use this tactic. They get a good candidate. I'm not saying Mitt Romney was. I'm definitely not saying Barack Obama is. But I know that people who say they can do something, such as getting us out of a $16 trillion debt or whatever it is now, is unthinkable. No one man can go with that level of responsibility, because you can't do it. There are people in history, in America's history, that did do things similar to that. There was a man named John F. Kennedy Fitzgerald. He stood for the belief that we should be able to do things in a free way. I don't know all the political things that he did. I barely know any. But what's sad is that I know he stood against the Vietnam War. He stood against political movements that he knew were wrong. and yet he got shot in the back of the head or the side of the head, whatever it was, in a vehicle just trying to wave to people in Texas and give them something to cheer for. Another man, Martin Luther King Jr., one of the greatest African Americans in this nation's history, stood for the belief that not only should African Americans have stood for something, but everyone, whites, Hispanics, the African Americans, everyone. I don't know if he mentioned Hispanics, but I bet he would have. John Fitzgerald, Condoleezza, well, not Condoleezza Rice, but I think that might have been her, the woman on the bus. She stood against the idea that race wasn't the issue. It was the matter that she had to move because of something that was fundamentally flawed. Susan B. Anthony, a member of a women's organization, that stood for the belief that women had the right to not only vote, but to have jobs and work and do things that men could do, and at the same time still have the womanly feel to them. There's all these people in history, and there's a few more I might talk about in a third episode, but there are people that have been in history that stood for more than what this country stands for now. They stood for liberty and mutual understanding, and that's obviously gone. I'm not a pessimist. I don't believe that this entire thing is gone. I do believe that it can be brought back, but only after we dismantle greed and remove our feelings for other nations that all they ever wanted was to care. It's because of greed and acting on angry impulses that we were ever attacked in the first place. People from other nations have looked at America as an amazing place, a place where you could move into the future and become successful and loving and caring, but recently that has not happened. And we stood for a lot more, and that's also lost. People from all corners of the world came to America in the early 1900s, sometime maybe even the 1800s, to a couple portions of America, the United States of America, united to find jobs and to be given a promised life, a good life. And I hope, to whatever belief you hold, that that could come back. I doubt it will come back in my life or my generation. It may not come back ever, but I hope it does. What I was going to say a few minutes ago, probably about 10 minutes ago, was how I was afraid about the Library of Alexandria instance. I'm afraid that that may happen to historical documents all over the world again. In our instance, in America, it would be documents like the Declaration of Independence, the Bill of Rights, the original, the all those other documents. I can't name off a lot of them right now as I'm trying to make a video and don't have any references, but the Emancipation Proclamation, all these amazingly written and well thought documents that show our history, and they may end up being lost if we keep fighting and eventually someone gets the upper hand on America. I hope that we as not only just America, but other nations can find this within ourselves to stop fighting. I know what I'm saying to a lot of people, probably most people, sounds ridiculous and unrealistic. It really isn't. It's something that we can do, we just choose not to. And that it's a problem. It's something we're not capable of, or we don't think we're capable of, and we are. Um, America, as I said, it was a nation of beauty. It was once literally nothing. It was just forest, forest, forest everywhere. No roads, no movement, no Indians, as some of the most amazing people, the Native Americans of old, I mean, they were a peaceful, mostly peaceful anyway, group of individuals. Most of them believed that everything you were to kill or to take should try to be replanted or use everything. That is what people need to do or should do. Yet it's very difficult to do when you're too focused on monetary values rather than being able to use skills not through college but actual skills that can prove you as a greater person or as a great individual, like people in the scriptures, the saints of old from all different nationalities and books and religions. Those were the people that didn't necessarily need to have money to prove that they were heightened or more able to do things to a more substantial extent. Those are the people that this world needs. Not America, not Africa, not the South American borders, no part of Australia, the Middle East, Europe. Just people all over need to heighten themselves and understand these things. I hope they can. I hope to whatever God or deity they believe in that they can, because that's something we need. That it is. Um, I'm going to probably be doing a third video. I'll do a little reading next time so I can have a better way of speaking all of this. I appreciate you listening to this again. Another video, another episode, and hope you have a good rest of the day. Goodbye.